appreciate that. And we wanted to take some time today to give you a demo of the product, and also Elliot's going to start with giving some context for it and how the ideas came about, and we can kind of go from there. But feel free to jump in anytime and ask questions. And if you're okay with that, we can get started.
That's fine. I just wanted to say that I just watched the YouTube video, the interview with Elliot and I can't remember her name, Knight Inc. or something.
Oh, Alyssa
Knight. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. To be honest with you, the first half of it was kind of like, I'm not sure what they're talking about because it was in the weeds a bit, but the second half I got quite a lot out of.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that was very helpful.
Well, if I can answer any questions today, I hope I can clarify any points for you and give you a good idea of what we're doing here and how this technology is vastly different than anything you've seen before, and we're very proud of it. So to give you an idea of my background real quick, I've been doing cybersecurity technology for about 30 years now. I used to work with the military and the government before working at Microsoft, where I ran the network security division of Windows, and then worked as the chief architect for the Security Center of Excellence for Microsoft itself, protecting the company itself. Went on to work at Merrill Lynch, where I was a worldwide CISO there and ran their cybersecurity ops. And then went on back into tech, where I was at Cisco Systems as the Director of Security and Identity Innovation. And then finally at Dell, where I got to meet Chris, where I worked as the Chief Security Architect for the Office of the CTO. And Chris was on the Presidential Advisory Board for Michael Dell, and as the Chief Security Architect, that was me with Chris and all the other CISOs and CIOs that were on that board. And we started working on all kinds of new technology sets, and Chris and I finally got together after a while now, and we're able to put this new technology together real quick. Chris, why don't you introduce yourself real quick?
Hello, my name is Chris Cianconi. I'm the Chief Information Technology Officer for Keyavi Data. I've been both a private and public sector CIO for probably the last 25 years or so, bouncing back and forth between the private sector and the public sector. My last role was the CIO for the city of Plano, where got a lot of experience with trying to protect information, and this product that we developed, I definitely believe that it could help out down the line. I've been a CISSP for about 20 years. So both I have both sides of the spectrum, where I've had the opportunity to both, be on the security side where to manage risk, but also on the CIO side where you have to manage cost versus risk. And it's a bit of a dichotomy, but it's been a good experience, not only for me, but I think working with an organization, a security organization. So it's a little bit about my background.
Excellent, thanks, Chris. And other folks that you'd get to meet on the team, we have Sean Thurston, who's been working with me for about 25 years, all the way back to Microsoft. He was my deputy CISO at Merrill, stayed on Wall Street, where he was a major director for data center and cloud security, as well as TJ Minicillo, who is one of the top cyber intelligence experts in the country, built Citigroup's Threat Intelligence Operations Center, and just came to us from being the senior director of the National Grid for cyber intelligence. So he handles all our forensics and analytics. You've met Jocelyn, and as well as our CMO, and Todd is our Chief Strategy Officer. So we have a mix of a team here that I put together because when you have technology like this, when I've done this over many years at different companies of Microsoft, Cisco, and Dell, when you have a technology that has fundamental changes in how technology works, you want to have the right team to not only put the technology together, keep it secure, keep it operational, and be able to deal with all the things that come with working with technology that does this kind of work. So let me give you an idea of what we have today and what this does. When we were looking at this back starting in a number of years ago, when I started working on these concepts, it became readily apparent with all the technology solutions we had out there to protect data. And there was a lot of great solutions that we've worked with over the years. you have constant change in the market and the IT evolutionary scale. You've got changes in data center, cloud, platforms, endpoints, different ways data is used, flow, different kinds of architectures, constant change. And this is part of the reason why we still have data breach issues, why data is still lost, why data is still not able to be contained. And when it is shared or it's extracted, it's beyond the control of the owner. And that's because there's only two common denominators across all of IT that allow for consistency, and that's data and the people that create and use it. And until we put the technology of security and the operations of security built into data itself, and that's what we've done here. We've actually taken all these technology parts and put them into data itself, and that's the key differentiator here. Now, when you are working with data, it could be self-intelligent, self-aware, and self-protecting in the wild. And it can follow your controls even after it's left your control plane. So let me give you a quick analogy, and then we'll get you into a demo so you can see how this works. In up till today, before this technology existed, if you had data extracted or stolen, or if you legitimately shared data with somebody externally to your company, once that data is gone, it is now out of control. It can't be gotten back. It can't be controlled. It can't be manipulated. It is out of your phase of control. With this technology built into data itself, and this is transport agnostic, it is platform agnostic, it is application agnostic, because we built this as an API platform with applications that run on it. This means you can plug it into any software, any platform, any operating system, if you like. What you're able to do now when data is taken, or if you share data legitimately, when someone tries to access that data, the first thing the data is going to do is say, who are you? Where am I? How did I get on this device? Am I allowed to be here? Why did I ever leave Elliot's office? Because I'm geospecific intelligent, and I can tell where I'm supposed to be, where I'm not supposed to be. And because it is that intelligent, it's able to take action upon itself no matter where it goes. It's able to keep itself encrypted. It's able to make decisions about whether it should decrypt for a person. It has the ability to control how it's being used and how it's being seen under what conditions. And what's more, because this is built into data itself, because it's completely agnostic to platforms and different kinds of softwares and hardwares, if you decide, let's say I share a bunch of data with Robin, and 2 weeks later, I decide I don't want to do business with Robin and I want my data back. In today's world, I'd have to ask Robin to please delete all the data and be nice about it. In this technology, because it went with the data and the data is self-intelligent, all I have to do is open up my laptop or my cell phone, hit one button, and the next time Robin tries to access my data, no matter where she saved it, no matter how many copies she's made, the data is going to say, I'm sorry, Elliot's changed his mind. Here's my new policy sets that I know of, and Robin, you're not allowed. And it will keep itself from opening up and protect itself. You can also do various things like fix it on different locations. You can allow locations. You can whitelist and blacklist different geolocations for the data to operate in, which makes it effectively, if someone tries to take your data from your company, the data is going to know better and not allow itself to be taken or at least accessed outside geofencing. We can put time embargo on data. So if you say, Robin, you're allowed to see this data from noon on Tuesday until Thursday at 5, and then it will take itself away and you can't access it anymore, you can do that. You can specify different users, different groups, different devices. All of this is within the data's capability to protect itself because it's all built into data itself. So this is a paradigm shift. And this is what we've been working on for many years to get this right. And because now that we've shifted security into data itself, it doesn't matter if the platform or the cloud or the device or the applications change. Data itself is intelligent now, and it can make intelligent choices. So what we'd like to do, if If I'm sure that opens up a lot of questions. We have a demo here that Chris can show it to you live, so you can see the whole platform in operation and see self-protected data working, and then we can take some questions. Sound good?
Sure.
Okay, Chris, go ahead. Chris, are you there?
Chris, you're on mute.
Chris, you're on mute.
Can you unmute him, Jocelyn?
Yep.
Sorry, every time I kept on clicking unmute, it kept unmuting me again. It must be
So we are not the people that put out Zoom, so I just want to make that clear.
As long as we don't get bombed.
That's right.
If it's going to happen, it's going to happen to the CIO while we're doing a demo, right?
That's right. Go ahead, Chris.
All right, so what I want to do is show you, I'm going to start off a minute, is that we built a small lightweight application that actually will interface with data to make it intelligent. What we did though is we wanted to build it into the, get some room on the desktop and things of that sort. So basically we actually built a little smart agent that actually sits down in your system tray, and you could show your agent, you could go to the portal, or you could hide your window. So in this particular case, I'm going to take you through a scenario and take you through the product. And then I'm going to show you some of the advanced features that we built into some of the products to make it easier for the end users to interface with. So let's just start off real quick where this is the Keyavi client. And I'm going to start from the back first. We have some of the common, interesting things that, developers like the dark mode, the light mode. We could actually set our home location. So basically, right from the client, I could just say, I'm just going to type in the interview home, and I'm going to register it right here from the client. And I'll get back to a minute how that comes into play. Then we're going to go into real quick is how to build this file. So basically, what we wanted to do is build everything very easy to use. We wanted to make it user agnostic, but on top of it, we wanted to make it so it was comfortable and easy to use for the end user. So what we've done is we've created a couple different scenarios. You could actually select a folder right from here to encrypt. You could select a file from here to encrypt. You could select users, and I'll go through this in a minute. You could actually say all users or just that office location that I put in. Here's where the time embargoes come in, where basically you could actually set a time and a date on which it starts and ends, all from an easy to use interface. The same thing goes into play for opening a Keyavi intelligent file. And I'll show you this in a minute as well as we go through it. And then you could manage the portal directly from here, and I'll take you on there in a minute. So we've also built this and we've interfaced it because we want to make it be easy to use. We built it right into the file system. So for instance, I could come right over here to this doctor folder, and I could right click on it, and you could see that you could encrypt and decrypt right from here. All I have to do is hit the encrypt button. It's going to go through and it'll encrypt that file successfully. And here it is down here at the bottom. I could actually go over here and I could say decrypt this file right from here. And it opens it up right in Word and decrypts it. So this is a sample file that I built for our data masking technology that we've put into place as well, where actually any of this information in here, for instance, like a medical record number or social security number, a birth date, you name it down the line, credit card number, will actually get masked out automatically if it's put into read-only for the recipient. The next thing is that we also wanted to build it agnostic across industries. So for instance, I built some sample data here. So let's say we're doing a secret warplane, and these are the specs for the Blackbird. They're no longer secret because I have them here. But I could actually encrypt one of these files if I wanted to, and encrypt it right then and there, and we could encrypt that file right on that file system. Or I'm going to just move that out and delete it. I could actually say, you know what, I want to encrypt this whole file system. I could come over here, I could say Keyavi encrypt, and it's going to encrypt the whole entire folder. Now, it's different than other applications that are out there, because what we do a little bit different is that in this encrypted folder that we put it in, each one of them are individualistic. So basically, each one of them are encrypted separately, and it's not one comprehensive folder. So we could actually change permissions of each one of these applications, even though it came out of the same folder. So let's take one of them to take a look at. Let's say, for instance, this SR717. I'd be able to go right into my Keyavi data portal, and I could log in right here. And this is where all the magic happens. So this is the portal in the front end. And what this is saying today is the user I'm logged in is the administrator of the account. So I'm actually seeing that we did 154 transactions today. I'm sorry, I'm the administrator of the entity, the company in which is using it. I noticed that there was 121 authorized requests. If I turn that off and I want to start drilling down in a little bit, I can say, okay, today we've had some unauthorized policy exceptions, and we had some in Canada we were testing, and up in Morrow County, Oregon. So TJ, as they brought up before, does a really good job of testing our application through the dark web and actually trying to log in and doing things in different countries and states. And by doing so, we get a lot of good metrics and data on how the application is performing, and we have a lot of good logging that's on the back end to take a look at it as well. I could take away policy as well, and I could say, okay, here's unauthorized accesses. I've had 2. Where were they at? I had one up in Henderson, Nevada, and I've had one over at Cedar Valley. So this is the dashboard that we have built for the product. Then I can move.
Hey, Chris, those are unauthorized attempts, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So this means that I didn't give access to the person. They didn't request access. They tried to access the product. It told us where they were, and they weren't able to access the product.
One of the interesting things is when TJ's testing this on the dark web, he sends out a piece of data, protected pieces of data over anonymous web blasters and email blasters, and you see this entire map below light up with policy violations because the data was sent somewhere it wasn't allowed to be geofenced. So when it popped up in South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Australia, China, across the dark web, within 30 seconds, all of the copies of the data that was geofenced to his office in New York all lit up across the map in yellow and said, I wound up here, I'm fine, I'm letting you know I'm fine, but because I was geofenced to New York, I'm not opening up. But this is the first time we've seen in cybersecurity that data itself, not a secondary system, not a logging system, not a threat analysis system, data itself within 30 seconds reported its safety and its controls and its locations from across the globe back to its owner.
So did that answer your question?
Yeah, they wanted to make sure we understood the unauthorized act. So keep going, yeah.
So here's the data management.
Do we want to just take a moment, Junko or Ann? Do you have questions at this point? Is this making sense? I know we're covering a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. I'm going to have some questions in a bit, but don't interrupt what you're doing.
Great, go ahead.
Right. So here's where all the data management is. So all the files that I've made intelligent live in here. And I could actually see these within my portal. Now, remember I told you this paid special attention to SR717? If I click on this, it comes up with this dashboard. So what this dashboard does is if I were to send this to somebody, regardless of where they're at, if it could be on a USB drive, it could be on a CD-ROM, it could be in an email, it could be on a shared drive, it could be on a cloud drive. I could either recall the access from it, or I could actually change the permissions on it. And we could go through an example. If we have a little bit of time at the end, I'd be glad to show that to you. Here is where we start capturing the data. So basically, we keep a chain of custody that actually keeps track of both what has happened, permission changes, and any policy audits that happen to that file as well. So here, I could actually tell that we had an event of success, the IP address that it came from, what desktop it was, what type of device it was, the MAC address of it, the network ID. The only advantage of being a big guy here is I could call my network Big Daddy, and then I could actually, the domain name now. We capture this both for chain of custody events, but we also keep track of this for our support side of it. So what we do is we run some machine learning against our support side to say, okay, so we could predict, or we're trying to get prescriptive on if there's a particular issue with a file that's being tried to open in an area that should not have been opened. We could actually start the alerting process much quicker because we know the type of, where the location is, and we keep track of a lot of other information that's not popping up in here as well.
So let me make a comment here real quick while you have that window
Sure.
up here. One of the things as a CISO of many companies and chief security architect, when a data exfiltration event happens, when you've had a data breach and you go to a legal situation and you say in court of law, the 3 questions they ask: can you prove possession, custody, and control of the data, and who had that at any given time? And up until today, it's always been based on piecing all of that information together from secondary systems, from devices, from platforms, and creating a log trail as to where possession, custody, and control of the data was. As you can see here on the screen, every single piece of data is now reporting possession, custody, and control throughout its entire life cycle back instantaneously to us forensically. So the data itself, because it's intelligent, creates that forensic chain now for customers and users to use.
All right, so the next one is the user management side. So here, because I'm the administrator, I could see each one of the users that are in the system right now. And I would be, let's say for instance, I want to go to Elliot and I want to take a look at his access. So from here, I could change his user access type from full access to just read only. We have a read-only client, so if a company is sending it to somebody that doesn't have a client, they'd be able to easily read only the file. I could suspend him right here, and then I could say he's an administrator or not of the system. The next one's our policy compliance section. So basically, there's a demo that we put out where this actually redacts information in that doctor document that I showed you before. And I will give it a shot here when we're done if we have a little bit of time to show you how that works. But we also have a PCI, we have HIPAA, CGIS, GLBA, SPDA, FERPA, PIPEDA, and GPS that is all available as licensed modules. The geo settings is where you could actually see, and again, because I'm the administrator, I can see everything, but I could actually see where everybody's geolocations and what they're doing. One cool feature that we really put in that we've gotten a lot of requests from customers on is this exclusions area. So basically this exclusions area is, let's say for instance, I put in Russia and I want to put in a reason why. I'll just say because, right? And I hit OK. Regardless of what happens with the entity, let me go back to exclusions. Regardless of wherever that file is, if that file is in Russian geocentric territory, it won't open regardless of the permissions. So basically, it's a way for us to protect that file in a geospecific manner that's agnostic across transport.
Now this is something that's really interesting. Chris is showing, especially so with regular operations of companies. If you say, I never want to see my data on a specific soil, say China or Iran or wherever it may be, you can put the blacklist here in, and no data that is assigned to this work will ever be able to be opened up in those areas. You can also specify different kinds of policies. You can say, if it's in the US at the corporate offices locations, I'm going to let you open up. If you're in the US at Starbucks, you're going to have to do other constraints to open up. If you're in, say, New Zealand, and I don't like New Zealand for some reason, it'll say, I'm sorry, not in New Zealand, right? Because the data is going to know, each individual piece of data is going to know where it is and how these policies apply, and we could do multi-policy capabilities. The other thing you saw earlier, when Chris signed in, he registered his home address in the sign-in. Now, what that did was, this is specifically useful today with the COVID virus, because with remote work, with remote work for stuff, because what you can do is you can say, here's my corporate users, and when they sign into their agent, they could register their home address and location and their latitude and longitude, so we can go right down to the address. And now you could say, you're signed in, and your home or your remote location is now part of the geofencing of the company, which means that we can enable remote workforce literally instantly upon sign-in, and your home now becomes a geofence part of the corporation, and your remote workforce can now use corporate data, and the corporate data will consider their house a safe haven open, but not outside the house. And of course, Chris is able to manage all of that right from here as a corporate entity. So when it comes to remote workforce capability, this technology, which is transport agnostic and operational agnostic, this means that you can use home devices, home networks, home offices, and the data itself will follow your commands and do what you say, and you don't have to worry about other situations like personal devices, home networks, and other pieces to help enable that. The data is doing it now.
Yeah, if you notice, when I first started, I typed in interview home. Here's the interview home, just to show you an example where I actually put my home location in that simply from the client. Here we could do some of the other things, just password reset, that dark mode again, that dark mode again. So, you know, for those people that love that dark mode, we change the colors and things of that sort.
You can see the map better now. If you go back to the mapping on the forensics.
Sure.
Take a look at what's going on here down in Australia, where we're sending out some test data down there. It was showing, I arrived here and reporting back, I'm geofenced. I'm not going to open on Australia. I just want to let you know where I was. Right? And this all happened instantly from the data itself. No secondary system was needed for that.
I think, Chris, too, you had used an example too. If your whole company is going out to your big corporate event in Vegas with, 10,000 people, Chris can set, a time, a 3-day period where anyone can access from within that remote location, and he can do that all at once. So it makes it very effective when people are working remotely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so if we're having, say, Black Hat conference here in Las Vegas for the week in August, you can say, okay, people, you can use your data, but will only open up on your device at the Mandalay Bay or your hotel room, and only between the days you're supposed to be at the conference, and after that, it's not allowed to open up in Las Vegas. So therefore, if the data is ever exfiltrated for any reason, and you're now gone from the conference, it's going to say, I'm sorry, only on that device, only in this hotel room was I allowed. If I'm still here because somebody copied me, I'm still safe. And it's going to report back where it happened and how it happened. So this is so one more thing I want to show you here on the demo. Chris, why don't you show some of the integration of Office? So one of the things we wanted to do here was We wanted to make this as user-friendly as possible. And like I said, it's a platform you can write any application to, or any, you can include this in any operation system, any application. What you've been watching here is the basic integration into Windows. There will be also for iOS, Android, and Mac. So you're going to see the same capabilities on those OSs as well. But we also integrated this completely into Office applications, so, and especially Outlook. So Chris, why don't you show them some of
Sure.
those?
So what we wanted to do is we wanted to follow the example of making it easy to use and I'm trying to move my screen over for you guys. I'm sorry. So here's a Outlook that's opened up. So basically, it's as simple as if I were to send Elliot a file, and I was going to say, let's say test, and I could either drag something in or I could attach a file. So there's an email example. I click on this JDK, I could do a couple different things. I could either interface through what we saw before, or I could just send it to him simply. And what he'll see is, I'll show you my sent files here in a minute. This is what Elliot sees when he receives it. And basically all he has to do is hit the decrypt button at the top, and the file opens up, and he's able to access and read that email list that was sent.
Now keep in mind, we built this completely into Outlook for ease of use. So when you built an Outlook file, the people you said to and CC to, they're all authorized recipients automatically on that IKD file. You also were able to set time embargo. You had the ability to set geofencing. All of that can also be automatically done as policy by your corporation as to any email you send as part of the group policies. And then any attachments he added to that email also became individualized intelligent data as well that adopted the same thing as the email. So it's as simple as sending an email with attachments, and everything becomes intelligent files that work this way. And he also has the ability to do this in Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and Visio.
Yeah, I'm going to show you an example of that right now. So let me just delete this real quick so to prove it to you. I'm going to delete this. So basically, I go into that doctor file again, or I could pick a different file. Right here, there's an encrypt button at the top right-hand corner. I just click on this. It asks me where would I like to save it. I want to save it. I'll save it in that same folder. Done. It's encrypted. So basically, I go back to it again, and there's that encryption. We have it built into PowerPoint as well. So people that are doing PowerPoint presentations, I can hit encrypt. That's where I want to encrypt it. I hit save. It's done. That is encrypted as well. We have it built into Excel. So a lot of people send Excel files back and forth. Basically, I hit the encrypt button there. Say where I want to save it. Done. So basically, if I were to click on this and I want to right click on that Excel, and I say I want to open it with, let's say, Notepad, that's all that the end user would see. It's garbage. It's salted encryption. But if I wanted to come over here and say I want to right click on this and I want to decrypt it, it's going to come up. It de-encrypted the file, and it's right here for me to be able to reuse again. And I can do it I can decrypt the file as well for each one of the files that are in that folder. Now, is there any questions so far?
I'm dying to ask you how you do this, and I know you can't actually tell me. But
No, it's a great question. You know what? It's first of all, I do apologize. That is an NDA discussion, right?
I know.
For obvious reasons. I can give you at a very high level.
Okay.
We do this with several pieces that we've invented and put into a process and protocol model that is a multi-key system that allows for multiple layers of protection for every individual piece of file. And we've also, because the way we've made this all intelligent is embedded into there is our new unique micro databasing technology. So every piece of data now has the ability to have microdatabasing built into its layers of protection. And using a multi-key system, it uses that microdatabase to allow it to think and allow it to process all these operations individually. And because this is all built into data itself at every single piece of data at the data level, it doesn't matter what transport, OS, application, data itself is now intelligent and able to protect itself and to think. And if we get into a NDA level discussion, that would be where we can show you the protocols and exactly how that works proprietarily. But that's the high level methodology.
And that wouldn't do me any good because I need to write about it. So
I understand.
but
That's
thank
why we
you.
want to be fair to everybody, right? But yeah, that's what's happening here. We've actually given data the ability to not only assess who has it, where it's at, what it's on, how it's able to think, and then using micro databasing built into that data, we're able to make the data agnostic to all transports and platforms and do this itself, which is the first time we've seen that in the industry. And that's also why when you see someone trying to access data and not following policy, why the data itself is able to report back instantly what its situation is, where it's at, why it didn't open up, and all the possession, custody, and control information, because it's able to do that kind of interaction.
Elliot, would you like me to show the public version of the architecture slide, the simplistic one for Ann, or we can send that to Ann later?
Actually, if you could send that, that would be great.
Great.
Yeah, that's fine. It's the high level 30,000 foot one. It's also the one that's on our website.
Oh, I was going to ask. Yeah, that was not downloadable. So yeah, I'd like to.
Yeah, we could definitely send you a copy of that.
Okay.
Obviously the in-depth one with the way the methodology works and everything, we have to keep under wraps. It's the secret sauce.
I have a couple more questions, but Junko, do you have any?
Yeah, I have really basic questions. So, two questions. Fundamentally, you're still encrypting the data, right? So the real difference here from the usual encryption that we know of and this, what are the fundamental differences? I mean, I think I get the
Absolutely.
gist of it. Yeah. Yeah.
So first of all, absolutely. We're
Yeah.
using encryption as one of the tools, obviously, to keep data safe. One of the things that makes this doable is that we didn't do anything proprietary that is not industry standard acceptable. We are FIPS 140-2 compliant, right? We are able to follow all those regulations and controls. And the way we did that was by not doing anything that is out of the norm when it comes to encryption. We're using AES standards. We're just using multiple layers instead of just one layer of encryption. And by embedding micro databasing an intelligent process into that encryption process, that allows us to do all the intelligence with it and make the data be able to think.
What is the genesis of this technology? I mean, this seems like it originally developed for maybe as a forensic tools. I mean, what is the genesis of this technology?
That is a great question. So, like I said, a number of years ago when I was the chief security architect of Dell, we started thinking about how to make data breach stop, right? And it had to come down to those two basic fundamentals. There's only two things that are staying consistent in IT: data and the people that create it and use it. That's it. Everything's amorphous around it. So when I started working on this problem, it had to come down to, if we didn't find a way to make data itself protect itself, understand when it's being in the wrong place, when it's located in the wrong spot, when it's been extracted and exfiltrated, when it's allowed to do things. Until we made data itself do these functions, we were never going to be able to get ahead of the curve, right? And so that was the genesis of the idea about how to get this done. And then as we evolved it, as I started working with Chris and the team on this and started evolving it, we came out with this technology embedded in the data to allow it to do all of these functions and be able to think about this in its own way. But more importantly, there were some other fundamentals we had to solve. It had to be transport agnostic, had to be storage agnostic, had to work on all platforms and devices. It had to do this kind of forensics, or else it wasn't going to be able to solve its own function. It must be able to tell when it's in the wrong place at the wrong time on the wrong device, and be able to take action, right? Even when, and it also had to have the ability to be completely manageable, and all these functions had to be completely pluggable and changeable any time in time, even after the fact, right? It was a very non-trivial problem to solve. This was so many facets and so many functions that had to fit into this. But by coming up with the multi-layer protection system for data and the micro databasing capability, that really pulled it all together and solved the problem and made data intelligent this way. Does that help?
Yeah. Back to you, Anne.
Okay. Sorry, I've got multiple things going on. I'm trying to focus. So basically, I've had two other interviews for this story. It's the story, Jonko, the story's getting really big. But anyway, one of them was, let me see if I can get the right one here. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Or is that the channel? Sorry, I'm trying to remember which one this was. I think it was Active Cipher. And I'm sorry, I thought I had this clear and I don't. Bear with me just a second. I'm trying to remember which one this was.
Sure.
Because one of them was dealing with the pipe and the other was dealing with the data. No, that's right. It is them. Okay, so Active Cipher says they're doing something not the same way, but that they're doing something that ends up with very similar results. Are you familiar with them?
I have not compared them yet. No, I haven't taken a look at that.
Okay, okay. Then let me move sideways a little bit with that question. Somewhere in there, I think, I can't remember which one of you fellows it was, mentioned that how this was different from other solutions. What other solutions are there? What other types of technology are there?
Sure, absolutely.
That are trying to do, that aren't VPN and the obvious stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at different technologies and how we're looking at different pieces, there's two fundamental differences in how we're going about this model. First of all, when you see the majority of people trying to say, well, we can keep data from leaking, right? And by putting your data on our platform, we're doing a platform play or an application containerized play. It's always about how to keep the data within a container or within a platform and within an operation, right? It's always about trying to do something around the data. Our differentiator here is that we've done this into data itself. So you don't have to worry about keeping in any given container or putting on any platform or checking back to a specified application that only allows access to data on a certain location under a certain control. Data is allowed to flow wherever it likes, wherever you want to send it, because this is now built into the data itself. And that's the major differentiator here from other solutions. There have been a couple other attempts at doing this kind of work in the past. They were either tied back to policy servers back at the data center where the agent had to constantly check back with the data center systems and the services to see, am I allowed, am I allowed, am I allowed, am I allowed? The other ones were where they were trying to make it sure that it only opened up for this application or only under these platforms or these containers. Again, not focusing on the data, but what's around it to try to contain it. We took a model here of data is going to go where it has to go for the business. It has to be able to operate. It has to be able to operate autonomously, and it has to be able to work for all the different systems you want to work for autonomously. And so it's one thing to encrypt data. It's another thing to make it think and encrypt data. And when I look at all the different pieces that we've seen, and I'm just glancing over right now, what you asked about, that the other solution set for active cipher, what they're doing is they're doing crypto agile file security, and they're automating it to provide end-to-end data protection. So what they're saying is we're just going to be able to do what they're calling encryption ease, you know, by saying we're going to easily encrypt all your data one to the other, and so on and so forth. That's not applying intelligence into data. That's saying that my endpoint has their agent and your endpoints have the agent, and we are just going to do one layer of encryption and be able to encrypt and decrypt easily back and forth, right? Or do it through operations that way. We are fundamentally different there because we're not expecting everybody to have the same situation or signed up on a single layer of encryption or signed up on a different kind of applied encryption algorithms.
Okay.
We are doing agnostic control, and you can now easily allow the data to have multiple layers of protection with all this intelligence built into it, with intelligent heuristic parameters that you can assess with it. They don't have the heuristic intelligence operations. They simply have encryption.
Got it. And that makes total sense from
Yeah. If you were to say, are they protecting? Yeah, they're doing invisible crypto back and forth, so it's seamless. But are they able to say, is this in the right house? Is this in the right location? Are these the right people? Is there a time embargo? Can they change that encryption and those policies and controls on the fly after the fact? Can you retract authorization after it's been done? That's all stuff that we can do because it's built into data itself. And I think that's one of the key pieces and differentiators here. If I decide in the future, even though I've authorized Chris to see all this data, that I don't want him to have it anymore, and it's months from now, and he's spread it out across multiple storage sites, when I change and flip that bit on my side, and I just say, Chris is not allowed anymore, all of the data that I've ever sent him will follow my commands no matter how long it's been out there.
Actually, they say they can do something similar to that part, which is, you know, if you leave the company, even if there's stuff on your computer, they can make it can. It doesn't. I don't think it exactly disappears. I think it becomes invisible, is what they were saying.
Yeah, what they're doing is the standard encryption methodology of revoking a key.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. That's standard encryption.
Okay.
Anybody can do a certificate revocation and revoke a key from access if that revocation is received and controlled by the device that held that key, not the data, the device.
Okay.
This is built into data itself, and we do far more intelligence because this is not just revocation. That's basics. It's revocation with context, control, heuristics, and situational awareness.
Oh, good point. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. I mean, I am by no means an expert in this, and this is all of this discussion is at a detail level I'm not used to getting into. So, and I'm not sure how much of this will translate.
Yeah, I totally understand. No, this is something that I think the key that you want to come through with this is this made data smart enough to be able to take many parameters of who, what, when, where, and how, and be able to make intelligent decisions about what it should do based on its owner's desires, and the fact the owner can change those permissions at any time in the future, no matter how far the data went out of its control, right? And the data will always report back to its owner, despite it's far beyond his control plane, what's happening, when, where, and how, and allow you as the owner to make more decisions and more changes forever. And the data will always intelligently be able to say, am I allowed to do this? And has my owner changed its mind?
I think that geolocation part and all of the different parameters are totally cool. I really do.
Oh, good. That's what, especially today with remote workforce.
Yes.
Exactly. The ability for everybody to be at home, but now your home is actively part of the geo-fenced corporate operations, and it's completely controlled no matter the fact that everybody is spread out, we've enabled everyone to continue to work with all of their data, but the data is not extractable, it's not exfiltratable, it's intelligent and knows where it should be, and it's simply not going to allow itself to be removed.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we talked about this potential use under the, coronavirus, home and shelter, that the people have to work on something together, right? Or people may have to share the file with somebody else. Now, what happens if, I may not give the whole file, but whatever they received, I was permitted to look at. And if I added something and I shared it with my partner or my client or something, and then what happens?
Chris, can you show the folks here collaboration versus full access versus read only real quick?
Yeah. So let me log
we have
in.
that built in for you. Watch this.
So I'm going to just show you the real quick the read only version using that one doctor file that I brought up. So I'm logging in as another account.
Oh, this is another excellent point. So those HIPAA filters you saw and the CGIS filters you saw the original doctor file he had with all the PII showing. Now he goes into read-only mode. Note the fact he configured himself for read-only as a receiver. So you could say, I'm going to send Chris this folder, this file, and the file is going to know he's a read-only recipient as opposed to a full recipient.
So in this particular case, you can see this is the read-only client. So it doesn't allow you to create anything. If I go back into here and I go to that doctor file and I go to de-encrypt, you'll see it's going to come up in read-only mode, and it's automatically going to redact all the information in there that in a read-only method. So basically, that MRN number. So let me show you these right next to each other.
That was the same file that he did before, only you're in read-only mode now, and it came up with, I'm sorry, you're read-only allowable, so I'm going to redact everything for PII.
And
wow.
What's nice about this too is, like, for instance, if I lose focus on it, and for instance, if I try to hit print screen, you notice that it goes away. So basically, we tried to build information technology into here, whereas if we're trying to use a tool to copy, paste it, save it, print it, it doesn't matter. As soon as you click away from it or you click a keyboard option, you lose focus of that file.
So we have full PII control, we have full print screen control, full photographic control. And also, can you show them collaborate mode as well?
I can. Hold on, I gotta do some logging in and logging back out.
So you asked a question of what if a group of people have permissions to a file?
Right.
What we can do is we can set everybody to say they can either have on that file, see where it says
read only.
Read only. If he changes the access, he has the choice doing collaborate mode or full access mode.
So if I change that file to full access right now, just as an example, right? And I come back out over here and I de-encrypt that file again. It's gonna allow me to open it in Word, and you can see all that information in there. Now,
right.
here's something else. If I click on this, right, and I say I want to revoke that access, and then I try to de-encrypt that file again, it says I don't have access to it.
He just did that with the data live.
Right.
That was the same piece of data. It doesn't matter where it was or how it was stored. It found out Chris says he's revoked, and he just took it away. And
I could request access too. So let's say it's accidental and I want to request access. When I go into my dashboard now, I'll actually see that I actually requested access to that file. And I could add it or I could reject access to it. So if I don't want that person to have it, I could just reject it and they can't open it. if I wanted to, I could add access to it and they could access it again. And it's as simple as me going back into this file. I could do this all day long. And I could say, okay, look, you know what? All right, you're back on with me. I'm going to take that away. I'm going to go to read only again with this. I'm going to change that access. And then
note the fact he has the same file he keeps going to, and it keeps changing its permissions based on what he's doing. Boom.
there you are.
Right. Okay, so this is really interesting. Let me ask you this. It seems like you actually have this product, even though you said you're announcing this week. You seem like you have already built this thing. I mean, it's already done. So where has it been already used?
That's a great question. We have been in early access mode with this one, with a very select group of deployers throughout healthcare, finance, manufacturing, entertainment, hotels, because as we built out the beta, and what you're seeing is the fully functioning version. You're seeing the applications. This is fully API capable. People can write to this to make applications. But when you have technology like this, having done this for many, many years, you want to make sure you keep it at early access with the right people you know that can test it with you and make sure you can get all the parameters right. There were many, many facets to getting this right. So we're coming out of early access now. Those early adopters are going to go to full deployment mode, and we were working out all the use cases, all the dashboarding, all the forensics, all the feature sets. And as they come out of stealth with us, we're going to be announcing them as full-blown customers, and we're rolling it out to many, many more. Right now, for us as a young company, obviously, you know, the things we're looking at with this kind of technology, it works on any kind of data. So we're expecting explosive growth with this as it comes out the door, especially, frankly, with COVID coming around, what it could do for remote workforce. It's been something we launched now, and we came out of early access mode to let people use the tech earlier than planned.
How long have you been doing this early access mode? How many months or years?
We've been working on this platform now since about October, and it went into beta in January, and the full release was in March. That we completed the overall platform you see now.
When are you announcing your customers?
Jocelyn? You're on mute.
Yes, sorry. We are working with them. Obviously, most of our customers are dealing with their own issues with COVID-19. So I don't have a definitive date yet because we have to, of course, work with their organizations.
Okay. But in other words, that those who have been participated in this early access program will go into the full deployment mode this month?
Over the next set of months as they come out of different priorities, yes.
Gotcha.
One of the things that, for instance, there's a couple of customers, obviously a couple of customers, all of the customers, frankly, got hit with COVID and going to remote workforce and everything. Right. So we're working with them to pull it out of stealth and go through all the processes and getting all the case studies done and everything with them. Everything got held up by about 30 to 60 days here on those kinds of announcements.
Sure.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
Not trying to put off the question whatsoever. It's just the way.
Logistics, right.
Yeah.
Get it.
And you had mentioned, this is Robin, you had mentioned a story that you're working on. Are you looking at this as something part of a bigger story?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah. This is, I'm doing a story, and actually, I guess Junko and I will discuss this later, but since I'm guessing she wants to write something herself, but I'm doing a story that's specifically focused on COVID-19 and what it's doing to, you know, the whole problem of suddenly enterprises having to deal with people working at home. It's not everything. I mean, I could easily write 3,000 words on that subject, but it's more specifically the enterprise to remote worker connection and how to keep them secure. So, and it's very specifically on cybersecurity.
Yeah, she and I will discuss.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
I think
Anything else?
I've got what I need. Sorry, I think I've got what I need except for that image.
One other note that I want to make sure everybody understands about this. At the basis capabilities here, this is an API platform. What we showed you with the Windows and what's coming out with Mac OS, iOS, and Android as well as the full Office integration suites, those are examples of the kinds of applications and services and integrations you can do using this technology with its API platform. If you're a developer, or if you're an enterprise company, or you're anybody that's working again with coded operations and files, you can take our API architecture and plug it into anything you're doing, and it'll work and create and interoperate with intelligent data natively using the API structures. What you saw today were really good examples of us writing Windows service agents and Office integrations. And that is the suite of applications that we sell as a license just for the end user. So they could just say, I have 200 people that need this, hit the button, and all the functionality you saw today gets installed immediately. But if they have their own developer teams, or if people want to write other applications with this, they can use self-intelligent data too using the APIs. So I wanted to make that clear.
All right, that's good. That's great. Yeah, do you actually have other developers at the moment you're working with?
I have several different groups that I'm working with. We are working with actually local, state, and federal government entities. I can't talk about the details, but they're absolutely looking at integrating this into different applications and platforms they're working on.
Gotcha. All right, thanks. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well as OEMs, you know.
Well, yes,
Right.
that's true.
I
too.
see. Right, of course.
All the OEMs
Yeah.
in the tech space and things.
Yep.
Absolutely. We have the ability to white label this technology right into another solution provider solutions.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. Jocelyn, when did you say that this is embargo? The 9th, right? What time 9th? April?
So we were looking at, we were going to do 5 a.m. Eastern on the 9th as kind of standard.
No, 8 a.m. Eastern,
Oh,
5
I'm sorry.
a.m.
8 a.m. Eastern, okay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Robin.
Right, yeah. Okay. All right, got it.
And what we
Yeah.
can do, we can send over the press release. It's nearly final, but when we get to a good final draft, at least we can send it over and we'll put the embargo time right on it so that it's.
Yeah. All
We'll
right,
get
very
that out to you
good.
shortly.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that.
And if you have any other questions, just let us know. We'll get you the image as well.
Will do, yeah. Okay, well, thanks for your time. This is really fascinating. I mean, you know, Elliot, you really explained it well. Is it possible that I'm just throwing out here that I might want to do a separate short interview for EE Times on Air. We have a podcast, weekly podcast program, and I just want you to carve out like 15 minutes of your time, and that would be like 5-minute recording. Would that be possible sometime later this week or early next week?
Sure. We can work through Jocelyn and we can get it set up. That's not a problem.
All right. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Well, great.
Okay.
Thank you both for your time. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and we'll get that info to you soon.
All right.
Will do.
Terrific.
Thanks.
Thanks, folks.
Bye.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.